Hi, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. My name is Jack. So in this video, I'm going to run through a slightly more complex setup of the Facebook pixel and also the conversions API. So in the last video, we used just the code, the pixel code, and we used the event setup tool to add in events, and that is just one way of doing it. It's a very simplified way. For more accuracy, we want to use browser and server-side data, so we're going to leverage the conversions API. So this is Facebook's solution to some of the tracking issues that they've been facing. It basically means we're sending back 2 events for every event that happens. So we're going to send back a browser event and a server-side event. And this enables Facebook to have a higher degree of accuracy, because let's say we're sending back a server-side event and a browser-side event, and the server-side one doesn't track properly. We've still got the browser-side one. And in reality, it's probably going to be the other way around. The browser-side one's going to get dropped in favor of the server-side one, okay, in most cases. So what this does is it increases the accuracy of the results. Now, what we need to do is we need to do a few things. Before I start off this tutorial, I just want to say that if you are using a Shopify store or you're using WordPress with WooCommerce, there are plugins for that, and Shopify does it automatically, where it will actually send back server and browser side data. So I think the first thing I should do is just show you how to tell if right now you are already doing it, because if you are, you can skip this tutorial. This is more of a manual setup. So if you're using like ClickFunnels, or you're using Go High Level, or you just want to implement this on a more hands-on basis, maybe you've got a Webflow setup, again, you can use this tutorial to help understand that process and to set up your conversions API. Okay, so first of all, let me just go into Facebook over here, and let's go into Events Manager. And I'm just going to take a look and see if we're sending back server and browser side data. So when you go to your Events Manager, you can click down to data sources. You can select the pixel that you want to look at. And when you select the pixel, you can see the connection type. So it will show you the different leads. So we've got lead event, we've got page view, we've got submit application. If this is a store, you would have purchase, you'd have add to cart, and checkout. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you if the connection type is browser or server. Now, if it is server, it's going to say browser and server. And if it is just browser, it's going to say browser. And if it's just server, it's going to say server. So in this case, we've just got browser events, which is what we set up last time. So now we need to start leveraging the conversions API so that this can start showing server-side data as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to jump into now. Like I say, if you have got a Shopify store or you're using WooCommerce, you don't necessarily need to follow this tutorial. There'll be other platforms as well that automatically connect the two. You can use those built-in integrations, just make sure that they're accurate. There's a plugin called Pixel Your Site as well for WordPress that can work well and can do some of this heavy lifting for you. But this is the Google Tag Manager setup version. And this is what we typically use with all of our clients using platforms like ClickFunnels and Go High Level. So the first thing we want to do is create a tag manager account. So you want to go to tagmanager.google.com, and it's going to prompt you to create an account. So you can sign in with your Google account, and it's just going to create you a simple account. You can enter some of your details. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go through it on this video. It's just all it is filling out the initial sign up form. Okay. Now, once you've done that, we need to create a few containers. So we need to create a browser container and a server side container. Now, just a quick kind of background on what Google Tag Manager is. I'm not going to go into it in too much depth, but it's essentially a one-stop shop where you can add different pieces of code. So you could add your Facebook tracking, you could add your Google code, you could add your TikTok pixel, your LinkedIn pixel. You can add all of your different pieces of code into Tag Manager, and it will then put it onto your site for you without you needing to implement them directly on every single page of your website. So you put the Tag Manager code on your site, and then you allow Tag Manager to handle the implementation of the other pieces of code. So it's almost like a container. You can put other pixels in later and other pieces of code in later down the line. So it stops you having to go back and update your website every time you want to add a new piece of tracking code or another piece of some type of code to your site, essentially, okay, in relation to what Google Tag Manager can handle. So from here, what we want to do is we want to click on admin, and you'll see that I've already created some containers. Okay, so when you're at the top here, you can click on this and you can see we've got the main account, and then we've got 2 containers, one browser and one server. Now, to do this yourself, under the account, you can go over here and you can click plus to create a container. Now, the first container you want to do is you want to create a web container. So you're going to click web, you would give it a name. In my case, I just gave it jacknewman.me, which is the domain name we're using, and then click create. From there, you're going to then have your browser container. Now, we want to do the same thing again, but we want to do it server side. So what you're going to do is you're going to click the plus here. You're going to select server. You're going to give it the same name. Okay, I'm just going to use this one here. I'm going to click create. And it's going to start to create you your server-side container. Now, with the server-side container, you're going to see this. It's going to give you this install Google Tag Manager. And again, It will prompt you to do the same thing when you create the browser side container, which you can just X out of, and I'm going to show you how to add that in later on down the line anyway, so don't worry about that. For now, we just want to create the two containers. We can add them to our site later on. So it's telling us here, install Google Tag Manager, and it's saying, how do you want to do this? So we're just going to click this automatically provision tagging server. It's going to give you this here, which is my billing account. So there's basically two ways we can do this. One is using a platform called stape.io, which is over here. Now this enables us to create a link between the browser side container and the server side container. So for the sake of completeness, I'm going to show you both methods. Now stape.io is probably the quickest method. However, the more complete method and the method that we typically use is to set up our own Google Cloud Platform account and to add our own billing information and domain name to that so that we can have our own custom server side container URL. And this isn't completely free, so I'm not going to go into the pricing in this video. I don't want to make this video super long. I'd recommend you look at it. You get a ton of account credit when you sign up anyway. However, there is a cost to doing this after that kind of account credit runs out, if you like, but it's very inexpensive and it's obviously going to pay dividends in the end in terms of how much the accuracy of your tracking improves. So bear that in mind. Stape.io, they also have pricing, but essentially it's free up to a certain number of requests, and then past that you're going to have to pay for some additional usage essentially of their platform, which is more than fair enough and it's not too expensive. So here, when we clicked the automatically provision tagging server, it's going to take us over to here. Now, if you don't have a billing account, it's going to prompt you to just set one up. I have already done this, so I'm just going to use this one. But let's say we wanted to create a new billing account. You would select that option and it'll immediately open you up into console.cloud.google.com. So essentially the Google Cloud console. From here, you could start to create your billing account. So you would enter in your details. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to create a second billing account. I've already got that. So instead for me, I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to use the server that already has billing set up. Okay, so I'm just going to go through that process again. So I'm just going to select, like I mentioned, my billing account because I already have one. So I'm going to click select billing account and create server. So this is going to select and this is going to create our server side container. Now, when we do it this way, and again, I'm going to show you later on for completeness, the stape.io way. When we do it this way, what it's going to do is it's going to create us a Google Cloud Platform property. And again, I'm going to show you that in a second. There's a few things we need to do. We need to add a custom domain. But this is going to enable us to link the two together quite nicely. Okay, so once it's created the server-side container, it's going to give you this, which is a link to your Google Cloud Platform project ID. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to basically open this up because you can see here the default URL is not a custom one. Now you can leave it as this, but I like to create a custom one. So what I do is I open this up. And it's going to open you up into your Google Cloud Platform property. You can see here it's got Google Tag Manager, this GTM there at the top. So it's created this for us. So what you want to do is you want to click on this navigation at the top left here. You want to scroll down. You want to click on more products. You want to keep scrolling down and you want to find App Engine, okay, which is here. And you want to select settings. Now this is going to bring up the options for us to add a custom domain. So you can click on custom domains. And then you can click add a custom domain. And from there, it's going to give you the options. So it's going to show you your domain name. Now, if you don't have one, you can click verify a new domain. And again, you would type it in there and it's going to ask you to add some DNS records so that it starts to add that domain name to your Google Cloud Platform account. So just to show that very quickly, you would click verify a new domain. You type that domain name in, click verify. And again, it's going to load up this. So if your domain is with a platform like GoDaddy or one-on-one, you can click these and it'll actually enable you to sign in and just link it straight away. Or you can scroll to the bottom and click other. From there, you can add this TXT record to your domain name DNS, and that will enable you to start verifying the domain. You can then click verify and it's going to start the process. Okay, so of course I'm not going to do this. I've already verified a domain, but what it's going to do is it's going to start to verify. It might take a while, but once it is verified, you'll then have that domain name within your account. So for myself, I'm just going to use this domain name, which is the one that I've already verified. I'm going to click continue. And now sometimes it will actually by default bring up your main root domains in this box. And if it does that, you want to click the X, you want to remove them, because what you want to do is you want to have a subdomain name. Okay, this is really important. So you don't want to have the main root domain linked to your Google Cloud Platform, because for example, when someone visits your website, it needs to be pointed to the right place. So instead, you want to have a subdomain. So I normally use GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and then dot the main domain name. Okay, that's normally how I do it. I'm also just going to put GCP test for this one. And there's a reason for that, because I already have GCP set up, okay, on this domain, because I've gone ahead and done this before I film the video so that all of the DNS records can update properly and I can show you the full process. Otherwise I'd have to just show you it spinning around and it wouldn't actually illustrate what happens. So for this, I'm going to use GCP test, but then later on in the video, you'll see it just says GCP, and that's because I've already verified it, okay? You click save mapping, and what it does here is it's going to create you some DNS records that you need to add to your property. In fact, this one, it's already linked. So if I click continue now, we're going to get this, okay? So it's going to tell us to add these records. Now, it's really important that you add these records to your subdomain. If you just add an A record to your root domain, it's going to mess up your entire website. Your website's going to go down. So instead, you want to keep your normal A records the same and your like www.cname record the same. You want to just add these to your subdomain. Very, very important. The CNAME you don't need to add. So I know it's got it listed here. You don't need to add it. It won't always work with the subdomain name, depending on how you set it up in your DNS, but I would just ignore this. It's not needed. These are the ones that you need to add in, okay? Then you can click done, and you'll see this is spinning around. Now, once this is finished actually spinning around and it's working, I'm going to show you how it's going to look. So I'm going to cut to how it should look once it's finished updating, okay, once you've done your DNS. So here you can see I've got the gcp.jacknewman.me, and that is showing, it's got the certificate ID, it's got the different types here, and it's not spinning around anymore. It says auto renewing, so we're good. All right, that is ready to go now, and we can move on to the next step of the process. Now, what we want to do is we want to copy that domain name, that gcp.jacknewman.me. We want to copy that because that is an important piece that we need to add in later on. So just copy that domain name, and then we can go back to our Google Tag Manager. And there's a few things we want to do. So you want to make sure that you're on your server-side container, and then you want to click on admin, and you will go to container settings. And from here, you want to add in your domain. You can see here, I've already done this. You want to add in your domain name to your server-side container. So it should say https:// then whatever the domain name is that you linked, you want to add it in there. Okay, really, really important. And you'll see here, you've got your Google Cloud Platform. Again, you can access that at any point if you needed to. And that is going to be a great way of doing things. We're now good to go in the sense that you've got that linked in. You will click save. And now you're ready to go. Now we need to verify that this is working. So you want to click preview on your server-side container, and you can see here it's loaded up as gcp.jacknewman.me. That means it's working. If that's loaded up as a different URL, not your subdomain, if it's loaded up or it just breaks when you click that, something's wrong. You need to go back and make sure you follow this tutorial correctly, or leave a comment if there's something that's come up that's outside of kind of what I've showed you. But the reality is it should show you this now. Okay, that means it's all linked correctly and we're good to go. We can move on to the next steps. Okay, so just for completeness, I want to show you how this is going to go if we're using state.io instead of Google Cloud Platform. So I'm going to click on admin. I'm just going to create a new server-side container just so that you can see what this process would look like. I'm going to click create. And then what I'm going to do is under here, I'm going to click manually provision tagging server. I'm going to copy that code. So you want to make sure that that is copied, and I'm going to click close. I'm then going to go to state.io and you're going to create an account. Okay. And you can see here, I've already created a property for this. I'm going to click create container. I'm going to give it a container name. So let's call this one Jack Newman, and I'll just put state. And then it says container configuration. And it says this configuration is provided by Google when you start setting up your tagging server. So that's where you want to paste that code. You can choose the location and click create container. And you'll see why this is a bit of a quicker process because you don't have to wait for your DNS to prognate and all of this stuff. So now it's going to tell us the subscription plan we want. So you get 10,000 requests for free, which is quite a lot to be fair. And then it goes up in increments. You can obviously see that. So I'm just going to click continue with free plan. It's going to verify it for us. And we can see here that we're going to get a URL. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got this tagging server URL. So again, we want to copy that. And then what we want to do is we want to go back to Google Tag Manager, and we want to go to admin. We want to go to container settings, and we want to click add URL, and we're going to paste it in there. Okay. And we're going to click save. Now that is going to create the link between our server-side container and our browser-side container. Okay. So from there, essentially what we've got is we've got that URL saved, and that is the URL of our server-side container. So when we link the two later, we can send it via that transfer URL. Okay. Now what you'll see over here is this one is now says running. So we're pretty much good to go. And again, we could start using state.io as that sort of bridge between the two. And when we add that URL in later, we can use it as our transport link between the two server and browser side containers. Okay. So for the rest of this tutorial, I'm not going to use the state.io one. I'm just going to use my server side one because I've already set that up now. You get the idea, and you can see very easily how this will work. Okay, so the next part is actually going to install Tag Manager onto our site just so that that piece is done. And we're just going to verify that that's all working. So we want to make sure we're back in the browser side container. So we've got a server and browser side container. I deleted the state one just for simplicity here. So we just got the two. And again, you should only have two. So we're going to make sure we're on the browser side container. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to admin, you're going to go to install Google Tag Manager, and now it's going to give you some code, okay? And this is the same code it would have showed you at the very beginning when you created your account. I told you to just X out of that. So this is where you can access it again at any point. So it tells us to put this piece of code in the header as near to the top as possible. So if you have other pieces of code, I would recommend you put this at the top just so that it fires first, and that's what Google recommend. One thing to know, I'm using a version of Go High Level. So you can see here, this is in my sites, in my funnel here, I've got a YouTube demo video funnel here that we're using for this video. It's linked up with the same domain name that I've verified with on Facebook as well, which we'll talk about in a second. But just for the purpose of this, where you enter this code is going to be different, okay? So depending on if you're using ClickFunnels, Go High Level, Webflow, WordPress, Shopify, this is all going to be different depending, but you need to put this in the header code of your site, not your page. If you put it in the header code of one of your pages, it's only going to fire on that page. It needs to be in the header code of your entire site. Really, really important. So you're going to put it there. And then you're also going to add the second piece, which is the body copy. So you're going to copy that. You're going to go over here. You're going to paste it at the top, and you're just going to click save. Okay, pretty good. So now we've got that running. And that is installed. So to verify that, what we can do is we can click the X over here. We can go back to workspace and we can click preview. And we can then enter the link that we want to test it on. So I just entered one of the pages from that funnel. And you can see here it's loading it up and it says Google Assist connected. And then if I go back over here, it says connected. That means it's working. Okay, if it didn't have that, if it said it couldn't find it or it didn't connect, then it's not working correctly. You need to make sure you've done that correctly up until that point, and then you'll see this loading in nicely. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to install some templates. So there's a few we need to install on the browser and server side, and this basically enables us to set up the Facebook Pixel and the Facebook Conversions API. So under templates, what you can do is you're going to go to tag templates and you can click new. You're going to click the three dots up at the top and you're going to click import. I'm going to put a link to these in the description so you actually can download these. And then what you're going to do is you're going to select the browser tag and you're going to click on that template and you're going to click open. And then you're going to click save. And you'll see here it pulls in Admirai, Facebook, Pixel and Conversions API. This is the platform that we're using. Admirai, great company, and this works extremely well. So credit to them, and I'm going to put a link in the description to the resources. So once that's saved, you're going to click close there. And that's essentially done for our browser site. So I'm going to click on the top. We're going to go to our server side container. And again, we're going to go to templates. There's a couple we need to add. So first of all, we need to add a client template. So we're going to click new. We're going to click the three dots at the right. We're going to click import. And you're going to want to select your browser client. Okay, sorry, your server client. Click open. Again, it's going to load it in. You can click save. You can then click close. All right. Next, we need to add a tag template. So we're going to click new. We're going to import, same as before. And we're going to click server tag, open, save, and then close. Okay, so now we've got these three in total. We've got two in the server and one inside the browser. All right. Now, a few things we need to do. Let's go back to our browser side container first of all, and let's click on tags. So we're going to start building this out. Okay, so first of all, I want to add like just a base code. So this is just like the page view. This is what's going to load on every single page of my funnel. So I'm going to click new. I'm going to give this one a name. So I'm going to call this one Facebook base. Okay, that's how I personally name it. You can name it anything you like. I'm going to scroll down. So I'm going to click on tag configuration, scroll down, and you'll see here under custom, you've got Admirai, Facebook Pixel and Conversions API. So I'm going to click that. Now I'm going to give it an event name. Okay, so automatically it's going to pull through page view and you can change this to whatever you want. We actually want this one to be page view because this is going to be on all of our pages. And it says, do you want it to be both Facebook Pixel and Conversions API or just one or the other? So we're going to choose Facebook Pixel and Web Conversions API. Now it's going to ask us to add our Pixel ID. So we're going to click that. I'm going to select a Pixel ID. So to do this, we need to go back into the Events Manager on Facebook. We need to go to our Pixel. We need to click Pixel Settings, and you've got your Pixel ID there. So you need to click that. It's going to copy it. Go back to Tag Manager, and you need to paste it in. Now, we don't want to have to keep doing this every single time. So what we're actually going to do, I'm going to delete that from there. I'm going to click this button here, which is Add Variable. Now this is going to create a variable, so we can use built-in variables, or we can create our own by clicking plus in the top right corner. I'm going to call this one Facebook Pixel ID. I'm going to click on variable configuration. Now I'm going to, under utilities, choose constant, which just basically means it's not going to be something that changes. It's just a constant. I'm going to paste the code in there. Okay, the ID in there. Click save. You can see now we've got this in here. So we've got FB Pixel ID, and that's going to stand for Facebook Pixel ID. So anywhere that we put this variable, it's going to input that constant ID that we added. Okay, so pretty cool. Now it says here Tag Manager Server's URL. This is really important. So for now, I'm just going to click save, and I'm just going to click Save Tag. there's a few things missing basically. So we need to start adding some of this other stuff in. So we need to add in this URL. Okay, so I'm just going to close this for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the server side container because we need to grab that URL. So I'm going to click on admin. I'm going to click on container settings, and this will either be your stape.io URL that you added in, or it will be your custom one. So again, I'm going to copy this one here, this custom one, and I'm just going to keep that in my clipboard and go back to my browser side container. I'm going to go back to that tag that we're creating. So I'm going to create that again. And now when it gets to tag management server URL, again, we can either paste that in, or we can actually create a variable for that. So I'm going to click that plus variable, built in. I'm going to choose this one as transport URL. You could call it whatever you want, server URL, it really doesn't matter. Okay, you're going to choose constant, paste it in there, click save. Brilliant. Okay, so now we've got our main kind of pixel code set up. You can add other data parameters. It's beyond the scope of this video, to be quite honest with you, but that'll do for now. Then when we click triggering, we're going to click all pages. Okay, so we want every single page to fire this, and we're going to click save. Okay, now we have our pixel base code. So now we're going to create our pixel lead event. So in my funnel, I've got an opt-in page, okay, which if I open that up, looks a bit like this. And then when someone clicks that, they can opt in, and it's going to take them through to a second page with me talking about a specific offer. Okay, so I can open that up as well. You can see here, we've got a specific offer. Maybe it's a video of me talking, and then they can schedule a call. All right, pretty straightforward. Again, it's just for demo purposes. So obviously, you know, this isn't necessarily what I'd recommend you make your funnel look like, but it's just for the demo of this tutorial. So I'm going to add that second page. I'm going to visit that second page. I'm going to copy that URL, okay, because this is the URL that I want to link with the event firing. Okay, so this is the lead event I want to fire now. So I'm going to go back to tag manager. I'm going to click new. I'm going to name this one FB-lead, okay, because I want that to represent lead event. I'm going to click on tag configuration, choose add Mirai. Now under event name, remember, we don't want this to be page view anymore. We want it to be lead. We want it both pixel and conversions API. We're going to add the pixel ID. And again, because it's a variable, we can click that variable button and just choose it, which is a lot easier. And tag manager server URL, remember we need to add that as well. So we're going to choose transport URL. Now, there's a few things. What we want to do is we need this to fire specifically when someone becomes a lead. So I need to click triggering, and we don't want all pages. Instead, we want to click the plus in the top right corner. I'm going to choose this one as Facebook lead. Okay, just give it whatever name you want really. In fact, for completeness, I'm going to just give it the same name, okay? Under trigger configuration, again, we want to choose page view, but we want to filter it. So we don't want all page views, we want some page views, and we want the page URL to contain that link, okay, that URL of that second page. I'm going to click save, I'm going to click save, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to submit this, okay, and publish it, and click skip. So now we've got our lead event and our page view event on our browser container, okay, not our server container just yet. So now there's a few things we need to do. We need to go into our server container, and remember, you can set up all the different events. So I just set up two there, the page view and the lead. You could set up purchase event to fire on certain conditions, you know, initiate checkout. You could do all of the stuff you want to do. I'm just choosing two there, which is the lead event and the page view event, okay. What we want to do now is we want to go to clients. So we're in our server side container, and we want to click new, and we want to call this one capital A ads Mirai. Okay, really important that you name this correctly. When I was filming this tutorial, I first filmed it before, and I actually gave the name a capital S there, and it messed up the tracking, and I was wondering why it wasn't working, and I hadn't seen this issue before, but it turned out that the naming, the way I named it with a capital S had messed it up later. So you either want to name it with a capital every time or not at all. The point is that this name is going to have to match something that we're going to add in later, exactly, including the capital letters and non-capital letters. So this needs to be, whatever you write here is fine. You could literally call it anything. You call it test, it doesn't matter. Okay, but it just needs to be something that you're going to use later in the exact same format. Otherwise, you're going to see an issue, and you're not going to know why, like I did. Okay, so you want to click client configuration. You want to choose this custom. You can remove this Facebook incoming request URL. In fact, you need to remove that. One other thing, you want to just click this hash user data. This just means that if you're sending any sort of like email name, phone number. It's going to hash that data and it's going to send it across to Facebook encrypted rather than just wide open, which is not how they need to receive data. They need to receive it hashed, okay, for security. So that's all good there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to enter the Facebook Pixel ID. Now, I know we created that variable, but it doesn't carry over to the other server, okay? So we need to add in the Facebook Pixel ID again. With this one, we're not going to need to use it more than once, so we can just paste it in manually, is fine. We also need the access token. So if you go back to the Events Manager under Settings, scroll down, and you'll see here you've got your Facebook Conversions API, and then you've got Set Up Manually, and you've got Generate Access Tokens. You're going to click that. You're going to copy this. Again, we don't need to create a variable from this because we're only going to use it once. Paste it there, and now it's giving this test event code. So you don't want the test event code to be active all the time, but you do want it to be active while we're testing. All right, makes a lot of sense. So you will go back in here and remove this later. But what we're going to do here is we're going to go to Test Events, and it's going to give us this server events, and it's going to give us code. So we're going to copy that. We're going to go into Tag Manager. We're going to paste it in. You will remove this later. I'll show you something later about when you remove it because it's quite important. But you're now going to click Save, and you're good to go. All right. Basically, what I meant by that is when you remove the code, if I just go in here, you'll see this incoming Facebook request URL, and it's got this Facebook here. So when you go in and you remove this test code, that's automatically going to be populated. You want to delete that. Okay. And when you delete the code, you want to delete that as well and click Save. Really important. Okay. Every time you go to make a change to the client, just delete that Facebook, that /Facebook on the URL. Otherwise, it's not going to work properly. Now we want to go down to tags, and we want to click New, and we want to call this one. Again, I'm going to call this one Ads Mirai. I'm going to keep everything the same. I'm going to click Tag Configuration, choose Ads Mirai here. And then under triggering, this is where it gets really important. We're going to click plus. We're going to choose this one as, again, Ads Mirai is fine. We're going to click Tag Configuration, also Trigger Configuration. It's going to be custom, some events. And then we want to choose a new variable. We want to give this variable the client name. So we can just call this variable client name. Click Save. So in that client name variable, that needs to contain Ads Mirai. Okay, so we need to make sure that this is the exact same as the client name that we added earlier. That's where before, for the sake of showing you, I had it like this. I had Ads Mirai. The issue is that the client was called Ads Mirai with a capital, whereas this one had a lowercase. So there was a difference there, and that's where it wouldn't fire properly. So you want to make sure that the client contains Ads Mirai. Click Save. Click Save. And we're pretty good to go here, right? We're really getting somewhere. So what we can do now is we can submit this, submit the changes, and click Skip. Close this. And then we're going to start running some tests to see if everything is working or if we need to do anything else. We're on our server-side container. We're going to click Preview, and it's going to load this up. So now we're going to go back to our browser container, and we're also going to click Preview there so we can test out both the browser and the server-side container at once. And we're just going to enter the first page in the funnel, okay? Now, the reason why I'm entering the first page in the funnel is because I want to test if that page view event is working, and then we're also going to opt in and become a lead to see if the lead event is working. So you can see here we've got this page. It says it's connected. Over here, this says it's connected as well. And then we've also got our server-side container over here, okay? So first things first, I can see that the tag fired. So it shows here in the summary, tags fired, Facebook base code, which is what we want. We can see here Facebook lead did not fire, which again is what we want, all right? I'm just going to reload this page, and I'm going to go back to the server-side container. And again, you can see here, under the server side, which is the gcp.jacknewman.me, tags fired, Ads Mirai. Okay, so that's fired, which is great. So we know that from the perspective of Tag Manager, this is working, but we now just need to test it on Facebook as well. So going back to Facebook, you can see on that test event section, you can see here that we have the page view, okay, and we have a couple of things that have happened here. So we've got this server and this browser side event that have happened, and you can see it's been deduplicated. Now, this is what Ads Mirai does so well. Because Ads Mirai have the tags and the templates, they link everything together really nicely, and they also include a unique event ID that can be deduplicated. So you can see here we've got this event ID. These are the same, okay? This one and this one. That's why it got deduplicated. This one down here, the server side didn't fire. So we've just got the browser side one, which is perfect. That's fine, works, no problem. But here you can see they both fired, meaning that we've got 1, 2, and it deduplicated. So this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. Now, again, you need to make sure that you've verified your domain on Facebook. So this is more the Google Tag Manager side in the in this tutorial. If you go back and watch the previous video, which will be the link in the description, you will see that you need to verify your Facebook domain name. That's in our past videos as well that I've gone into. You need to verify your Facebook domain, and you need to make sure that all of that side of things is set up correctly. Otherwise, this won't work properly. But for now, you can see under the testing, we've done all that process, and you've got your setup working pretty well. So let's opt in and become a lead and just show that this is working, and then we'll finish up the tutorial. So under the same test where you can see that I've got this tag assist here, I'm going to click get started. I'm just going to enter my details. I'm going to click continue. Great, so that is now opted me in, and let's see what's happened. So if I go over here to the tag assist, you can see this lead event is fired as well, which is perfect. This is what we want. So this is showing that we've got both the Facebook base code and we've got the lead code firing, which is exactly what we want. And over here as well, we can see a very similar things. We can see that the tag is fired as Mariah, okay? And we can see that we've got different events. We've got a lead event, we've got a page view event, and the tag is fired each time. That's really key, all right? It's important that the tag shows fired. Even if you see these on the left-hand side, but you don't see tag fired, there's something wrong, okay? So you see this. Now, if we go back to the events manager, you can see here now that everything's working as it should. We've got the lead event, we've got the page view event, everything is being processed, it's been deduplicated. This is exactly what I want to see. And you can tell now that everything is working as it should. So you're basically good to go. Okay, you're done. Of course, you can add in additional tags into your browser side. Remember, the tags are always added at the browser side. You don't have to add them again in the conversions API. It will just allow you to basically push those events across, and it'll do that automatically for you. So look, any questions, drop them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. We'll move on to the next part of the series soon. There is a link to the playlist in the description. Any questions, like I say, let me know. Please like, subscribe, click the bell notification, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.